think I'm live. I never know for sure. Hello. Yes, I am live. And I'm in the right place as well, meaning I'm not off to one side. How are you? How's it going? Good? I hope it's going well. It's fine if it's not. Not every day goes well. We're going to do a bit of meditation. I do these meditations on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They're part of the further emergence work I do. If you're curious about further emergence, I will explain about it at the end. And on Wednesday and Friday, we just meditate. We just get straight into it. But on Mondays, I explain what I do just for the benefit of people who are new to meditation. So if you're experienced, if you're used to meditating, brilliant. Can you hang on though while I explain what I do just for the benefit of people who are new to meditation? There's lots of different types of meditation. This is what I do. For me, it starts with why I would meditate. I'm trying to connect to a part of me that I connect to every night when I go to sleep. Not the dreaming bit, the bit after dreaming. So I'm dreaming and then I drop out the bottom of dreaming into deep dreamless sleep where I have no thoughts, no memories, no feelings, no emotions, no personality. Don't really have a body, don't have a bed, don't have a bedroom. I don't really have anything. I don't even have me, because me, I sort of cease to exist, certainly in the way that I normally register my existence. So when you add all that up, that sounds awful. That sounds like death. Yet, I love going to sleep. And when I wake up in the morning, I feel refreshed. So some part of me knows that wherever I go to, it's a good place. And that's where I want to go to when I meditate. I just want to go there consciously. So straight away, if you're new to meditation, I would encourage you not to try this lying down, because if you lie down, there's a good chance that you'll fall asleep. And if you don't fall asleep, you may battle sleep, both of which are kind of counter to what you are trying to do. So yeah, sit up. You don't have to sit in the lotus position or anything like that, unless you're comfortable doing that. I'm not. I just sit in a chair. And if you're going to sit in a chair, make sure it's not a big comfortable armchair, or you're going to be into the whole falling asleep thing again. So as I say, no thoughts in this place. For some reason, my mind can't get to this place that I want to go to in meditation. It's almost like a room I go into, and my mind has to wait outside the door. So it's no fun for my mind. So I have to figure out a way of working with my mind so that it's on board for the whole thing, because I don't want to spend the whole 15 minutes just arguing with my mind or having difficulty with my mind. And that even becomes more pronounced if you want to have a long-term meditation practice. Then your mind can come up with all sorts of reasons why doing the vacuum cleaning and washing the windows is a much better idea than meditating, or whatever it is, I'm not going to go into that too much though now, unless you have a particular question about it, in which case I'll try and answer it at the end. For now, I'll just say that it's important to have one's mind on board. And then the next thing is to stop thinking. Now, it's easy to stop thinking. The difficulty in meditation is the amount of time that it stays stopped. But to stop, it's relatively easy, because regardless of what I'm thinking about, which would be like the content of my thought, the structure of my thought is always the same. It's always pictures and sound. So if I turn off the pictures and I turn off the sound, that's it, I'm not thinking. And as soon as I do that, I'm into the practice of meditation. Now, the practice of meditation runs parallel with the intention of my meditation. Now, the intention of my meditation is, as I said earlier on, to go to that deep, still, profound, calm, Zen-like. I'm trying to think of the other words that are used to describe meditation. Still, that place. The practice of meditation starts pretty much as soon as I stop thinking. And it generally goes something like, I'll turn off the pictures, I'll turn off the sound, so I'll bring myself to not thinking. Then a little bit of time will pass, I'll discover I'm thinking again. I go, I'm thinking again. Turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, bring myself back to not thinking. Then a little bit more time will pass, and I'll discover that I'm thinking again. I go, thinking again. Turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, bring myself back to not thinking. Then a little bit of time will go by, and I'll discover I'm thinking again. I go, I'm thinking again, and so on. It's pretty simple. Every time I discover I'm thinking, I bring myself back to not thinking. And it's important to know that thinking can happen in meditation. And it's because it's very easy to get the misconception that in order to meditate correctly, I can't be thinking at all, which isn't my experience. These two things go together, the practice and the intention, and they sort of weave back and forth. They do a little dance, if you like. Sometimes I'll be very deep and still, and then other times I'll be discovering that I'm thinking. And both are powerful in their own way. It's kind of obviously powerful when you are very deep and still. You can feel the changes in your body, your nervous system, your body changes. It's lovely. It's also very powerful when you discover that you're thinking. But it's not so obvious, because when you discover that you're thinking, there's a space there to do a bit more thinking, meaning, oh no, I'm thinking, oh, I'm terrible at meditation, oh, I'm just, and so on. These are all just more thoughts to be turned off. Where the power is, though, is, if you're like me, the sorts of things that you think about are all to do with you. So I will be thinking, why did I say that to that person? Why did that person say that to me? What am I going to do about that thing? You know? Now, if I'm in the middle of meditation and I'm having one of those kind of thoughts, and then I go, oh, I'm thinking, turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, bring myself back to not thinking. Indirectly, what I'm saying to myself or demonstrating to myself is, you know that thought that you just had, the one that you thought was you and that you were it? Well, you just made it disappear. Just gone. So you're obviously not that thought. In fact, you're not any of your thoughts. You're something different. That's very powerful. And then the fact that you do that repeatedly is very powerful as well. So as I say, the golden rule is every time you discover that you're thinking, bring yourself back to not thinking. If you do that, you're doing great, because the number of times that you have to bring yourself back varies from day to day and hour to hour. You know, you could meditate in the morning and only have to bring yourself back from thinking a few times. And then you might meditate in the afternoon and you might have to bring yourself back from thinking hundreds of times. One is not better than the other. It's not a quantitative thing. It's not how it works. Every time you're thinking, discover you're thinking, just bring yourself back. If you do that, you're doing great. Now, while all that's going on, I'm also becoming a little bit more conscious of my body and tension in my body. So I scan my body from my head down to my feet, and back up again very slowly, very gently. And anywhere I find tension, I let it go. And I use my out breath to let it go, because it's very natural to do that. And it feels, you can almost feel like you're breathing away the tension. I like to think of it like, if you've ever been on the beach, not when there's big waves, but just the water's coming in and going out and coming in and going out. Every time the water goes out, the sand is a little bit smoother. It's like that with the out breath. That's the way it feels to me. Every time I breathe out, it's a little bit smoother inside, a little bit less tension. So it's great for that. Then the other thing is, using my out breath to let go of tension is just a nice, gentle way of bringing a bit more awareness to my breathing, because it's quite easy with all the thinking, not thinking stuff going on to forget to breathe or to hold your breath in meditation. So using the out breath just as a nice way of bringing a bit more consciousness to my breathing. So it's good for that. The other thing I do is, as I'm scanning my body, I'm spending a little bit more time on any structures that are transverse or go across my body. Mostly my body runs longitudinally, head to toe, but any structures that go across, they operate a little bit like a log going across a stream. So, you know, the log will pick up all the leaves and the branches and the twigs, and anything that's coming down the stream will get caught by the log. It's similar in my body, except it's not twigs and leaves and stuff, it's tension. So I spend a little bit more time on my eyes, their transverse sight, my jaw, my tongue, the base of my neck, my shoulder girdle. All my joints are transverse sight, so my shoulders, elbows, wrists, fingers, my heart area, my respiratory diaphragm, all my intestines, my pelvic floor, my hips, my knees, my ankles, and my toes. Having a nice quiet room is very helpful when you're starting out in meditation. The reason being that one of the things that triggers thoughts is sound. So when you close your eyes to meditate, your hearing amplifies. So the quieter the room, the better chance you'll be giving your mind of having less things to think about. And then the other thing I do to help my mind have less things to think about, or triggers, is I set a timer for how long I'm going to meditate for. So I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes. But if you're new to meditation, I'd encourage you to set yours for 5 minutes and then repeat that 3 times. Because 15 minutes is a long time if you're not used to it. I know that sounds crazy, but by around 7 minutes, the 7-minute mark, your mind will kick in. You didn't set the timer right or whatever. It'll just start thinking about things. So yeah, 5 minutes and then repeat that 3 times. Okay, let's begin. few deep breaths, and then when you're ready, open your eyes. So as I said, these meditations are part of the further emergence work I do. Further emergence is to do with growth, inner growth, growth in consciousness, growth in awareness. You could call it spiritual growth, that kind of growth. Because your body pretty much stops growing when you become an adult, but you keep growing on the inside. That doesn't stop. That keeps going through your whole life. And just like when you were a child, you might have gone through periods of accelerated growth in your body. You know, they're called growth spurts. You go through the same on the inside, and they too continue for your whole life. The difference with an inner growth spurt and a growth spurt in your body is that when you were going through a growth spurt as a kid, if you went to your parents and said, oh, I've got pains in my legs or my shins or wherever you were getting the growing pains, your parents wouldn't have freaked out. They wouldn't have gone, oh my God, what is wrong with you? They wouldn't have brought you to hospital. They wouldn't have even brought you to a doctor. They would have just said, sorry, but it's natural, it'll pass, it's just part of growing. They're called growing pains. You're going through a growth spurt. That is much harder to know when you are 45 or 55 or 25. When you're going through an inner growth spurt, it's much harder to know that it's natural, it's all right, it'll pass. There's a much bigger space to feel like you're broken or there's something wrong with you. So further emergence, or what it's about, is about supporting growth, inner growth in general, and then specifically when for those inner growth spurts. And I do a couple of different things to sort of help that and support that. These meditations are one of those things that I do. And the reason why meditation is good is the more it helps you become familiar with your inner landscape, because the more familiar you are with your inner landscape, the easier it is to navigate these difficult inner growth spurts. So meditation is great. So doing these, it's just a way of kind of giving people a kind of reference point that they can meditate along to and maybe begin to have a meditation practice. I have retreats, there's further emergence retreats there every 3 weeks. We do longish meditations there with them. They're more kind of focused, I suppose. There's a bit more talking in the meditations. A bit more directed, that's probably a better way of putting it. And then there's a chance for talking and sharing and questions and answers and that kind of thing. Because I've been through further emergence myself loads of times. I've helped lots of people through it as well. So they're helpful. They're helpful as well because when you're going through a really intense period of further emergence, you can, or growth spurt, inner growth spurt, it can feel like you're on your own, very on your own, because one of the aspects of going through an intense growth spurt can feel like, you know, one day you get everybody and everybody gets you, and it's beautiful. And then the next day, no one gets you and you don't understand anybody, and that's not so beautiful. That's very difficult. So one of the benefits of the retreats is a chance to kind of see, oh, okay, I'm not the only person going through this, and it's you can feel a little bit less alone. So they're the retreats. Then there's a podcast that accompanies those retreats. That's the audio from the retreats. I work with people one-to-one as well in 2 different ways. I do one-to-one further emergence support. That's a combination of talking, and then I use my craniosacral skills to work remotely with their system to sort of help their system harmonize with the process. That's very helpful in that when you're going through an inner growth spurt, it can show up or manifest or express itself in very different ways. So almost every person is different the way it manifests and the journey that they go through it. So it can be just really helpful to have some support in that, and that's why it's like it's one-to-one. And then I also work with people who I've no interest in consciousness, I've no interest in all this spirituality stuff or awareness or whatever, but I do have questions and I do want some reflection. So they're much shorter sessions as well, and they're kind of under the banner of kind of coaching, because that's easier to understand. And then I have books as well. I've written 4 books all around the subject of further emergence. So if you're still with me, if you've watched all the way to this point, possibly some part of you is going, yeah, there's something to this. I'd encourage you to just let that part of you decide or tell you what the next thing to do is. Whether that's to come into the meditations, to listen to the podcast, to watch some of the YouTube videos, to come to a retreat, to get in touch for some one-to-one work or some of the coaching work, read one of the books, or none of the above. That part of you will know. Yeah, so maybe I'll see you on Wednesday for some more meditation, or I'll hear from you in one way or another. And thanks very much for meditating with me, and I'll see you again.